Since its original release in 2007, I have always been a fan of Bioshock. From the gameplay, to the characters, to the storyline, I have always thought it was fantastic, and for that reason, it would be the perfect first video for this YouTube channel. Now, I went ahead and picked up the book Bioshock Rapture by John Shirley, the prequel to Bioshock. And then, after reading through it, I went ahead and revisited the game that I had played oh so many years ago. The book, by itself, fantastic. The game, by itself, fantastic. But I do think the book provides some additional details and motivations behind the characters that help make the story a little bit richer. As a quick note, there will be spoilers in this conversation as we jump between the book and the video game, so just wanted to give fair warning. But without further ado, let's get into it. The first character that we're going to talk about is Andrew Ryan. Now, you could make an entire video on Andrew Ryan in and of himself, but to stick with the theme of this video, I'm going to just speak on Andrew Ryan in the context of the book, how it directly impacts the game, and try to keep that as concise as humanly possible. So, in the book, we're introduced to Andrew Ryan in 1945 in New York. Sullivan, his bodyguard, has just come to him and told him that the bombings in Hiroshima and Nagasaki have taken place. It's right here that we can tell that the seed of Rapture has taken hold, it's been planted. There's something brewing in the great man, as the book initially refers to Andrew Ryan. But on page 15, we are given in the book a little bit more insight to Andrew Ryan's background, which I think from a context standpoint begins to humanize the character that we later meet and see in the video game. So on page 15, we learned that him and his father have been fleeing Minsk. It's under the regime of communist control, and they are just looking for freedom and to escape. It is also noted that Andrew Ryan Americanized his name, initially his name being Andrei Ryanovsky. So this is a good little excerpt in that it shows him and his father trying to escape. Unfortunately, they do run into his father's cousin, Dmitri, and Dmitri's wife, and they unfortunately die on that train platform. But it humanizes Andrew Ryan to the extent that we can see that Andrew Ryan has known poverty, he has known fear, and he's overcome adversity. And again, it humanizes the character a little bit. He's not just someone who created Rapture, who went crazy, and at the end of the video game, you end up hitting him with a golf club and killing him. There's a little bit more to the character than that, and I think that's where the book truly does help shine and make the game a little bit richer. So just a quick timeline for anybody that's interested. Andrew Ryan fled from Russia to America as a boy in 1918. The book itself picks up with Andrew Ryan as a full-grown man in 1945, and the book cites the second age of Rapture as 1948, when I would term it as the glory years of Rapture, when everything is going very well. And then the video game picks up in 1960, where you play as the main character, Jack. So it gives you a good idea of how it was with Andrew Ryan starting as a young child, when he became a man, when everything was going well in Rapture, and the amount of time that lapsed before you arrive on the scene in the video game. As we get closer and closer to present day of the video game, Andrew Ryan has come quite a far way from where he was when he initially left Minsk with his father in 1918. He has accumulated, by this point, a great deal of wealth through oil, railroads, coal. The guy's got a lot of money, and he has the financial means to create this underwater universe far away from the outside world, to run away from the insanities of the world above. Now, he's got a problem, one of many problems, but he needs to populate Rapture with the right people. He's got individuals already like Simon and Daniel Wales, who are the designers and architects of Rapture. He's got people like Greavy, who is an engineer who helps bring the Wales brothers' vision to life, but he needs to find people that he can trust. Ultimately, the decisions that he made here, arguably, some of them could be considered to be good decisions. I think Bill McDonagh was a good decision, but he's also made some bad decisions. And those bad decisions outweighed the good decisions, ultimately eroding away at Rapture and leading to its downfall. It's in that piece, if we were to unwind that, revisiting the game years later, just being older now than when I first played the game, I actually enjoy that piece as much as the big daddies, the little sisters, everything that goes with playing the game itself, just because the story of Andrew Ryan attempting to create this underwater universe, free from all the entanglements of the world above, yet somehow those qualities of greed, desire for power, found their way into Rapture and led to its undoing. It's all really fascinating and a lot of fun. Despite the backstory and all the additional details that John Shirley is kind enough to provide us about Andrew Ryan, we know that by the time the video game gets here, he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. We also know Andrew Ryan was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, though, way before the game even started, and the book is kind enough to give us those details. We know Andrew Ryan is starting to feel his age. We know the political pressures with the council and all of the problems of Rapture is beginning to weigh on him. Let's not forget the fact that in the video game there are bodies that are stapled to the wall, and in the book it sounds to me like it's termed like a shadow or a valley of death. Either way, the book starts to get dark. I was always very curious and interested how Andrew Ryan's character was concluded. He essentially let you kill him. He was safe and protected where he was. He did not need to come out and greet you, but he chose to, and he chose some very interesting words to use. And this is where the book and the video game have a very interesting parallel. One such example is on page 418, where he is speaking to Bill McDonagh at the very conclusion of the book, where he says, "Bill, you're a weak link on the great chain, and I cannot leave that weak link in place." Bill aimed the gun as Ryan stalked towards him. Bill's mouth was dry, his pulse thudding. Ryan was almost in reach. "A man chooses, Bill. A slave obeys. Choose, kill me or obey your cowardice and run away." I think it's a good question. Why does he do this? Why does he say these things? Why did he do all the things that he did? And I think there's a lot of answers to this, and I don't even know if there's really even one correct answer to it. Number one, I do think he is completely gone at this point. I think the guy's totally nutso crazy. But I also think that this phrase, this ultimatum, it allows him to have control. It gives him power over the situation. And I think that's something that Andrew Ryan thrives on. He needs it. He desires it. He built his whole life around it. And by presenting this statement this way to Bill, just as he does to Jack, he maintains control at all times in the conversation, even if he dies. Pretty fascinating. Pretty crazy. But fascinating. You know who we don't hear enough of, though? Is Bill McDonagh. McDonagh. Him. Once Ryan took a liking to Bill, things moved pretty quickly. From there, Andrew shared with Bill additional plans, additional models of what Rapture would be. Ryan introduced Bill to new characters and new people, these individuals being ones that would in the future inhabit Rapture, some of them, and ultimately it would lead to Bill taking the ultimate plunge with Ryan to live down in Rapture. And then before Bill took that plunge, the wording that Bill used with Ryan that really sticks out is that he is with Ryan from quote-unquote A to Z, essentially saying he is with Andrew Ryan through it all, through the end. Bill is 100% committed to do whatever he needs to do. The way that Bill sees it is he not only looks up to Andrew Ryan, but Andrew Ryan has plucked him from poverty. He has taken him from being a lowly worker and given him the title, the prestige, and the money, the finances that he has really wanted to be this engineer/general contractor. And thus, he essentially becomes this character throughout Bioshock Rapture as this individual who is constantly fixing problems, whether that's paying attention to the plumbing systems, the heating systems, the cooling systems, fixing leaks, and just in general, correcting or trying to fix emergencies. It even stretches into Bill taking part in many of the gunfights that would later happen once Rapture begins to enter into that final phase where it's in its downfall. Bill McDonagh is a very well-written character. He is a good man who has a good heart, and in many respects serves as the glue to this story, juxtaposing himself to characters like Andrew Ryan and Atlas, who are not really at their core good people. So Bill fits the role quite nicely, and I think John Shirley did an incredible job writing Bill throughout this book. We're introduced to Bill as a plumber. He owns a plumbing business, but he has aspirations to do something more. He's applying to be an engineer at an engineering company, but for one reason or another, whether education, background, or otherwise, it just hasn't quite worked out for him. He does a job for Andrew Ryan in his bathroom in New York, and Andrew is really taken a liking to Bill based on the work that was done. Mainly, it's that Bill did not try to overinflate the bill. Andrew Ryan was expecting Bill to try to take advantage of him, tack on a few dollars, but Bill merely says, no, I like to be paid. I like to be paid well, but I only like to be paid for the work that I do. And that struck a very positive chord with Andrew Ryan and captivated him, and ultimately led to Bill McDonagh being employed in Ryan's services. As referenced when we were going over Andrew Ryan, the relationship between Bill and Andrew does not end well. Bill becomes very aware that Andrew has gone off the deep end, no pun intended, and he needs to get his wife, Elaine, and his daughter, Sophie, out and away from Rapture as soon as possible. The last time that Bill and Ryan would meet would be when Bill is pointing a gun at Andrew in his office, and Ryan famously says to him, as we discussed, "A man chooses, a slave obeys." However, before that, Andrew Ryan gives a quote to Bill that almost concludes their friendship, concludes their relationship, and concludes their time together in the story, which I thought was rather neat. Ultimately, Ryan says, Ryan smiled sadly. "What was it you said, Bill? You'd stay with me, from A to Z. Well, we're not quite at Z yet, but it seems you're taking your leave." Well done job by John Shirley, providing us a very satisfying conclusion to their relationship. And ultimately, Bill, being the good guy that he is, does not have it in him to pull the trigger. He cannot kill Andrew Ryan. Again, Andrew plucked Bill from, as Bill sees it, this depth of poverty. He provided him all of these opportunities, and he just, at the very end of the day, could not kill Andrew. So what does he do? He hits him with the pistol, knocks Andrew Ryan out, and he takes his leave. Ultimately, Bill would not escape Rapture. He would get to the surface. He would be caught by Andrew's henchmen. However, Elaine and Sophie would escape and provide a very satisfying end to this story, knowing that Elaine and Sophie are safe. And in that way, Bill's legacy will live on. I want to thank you for listening to my very first YouTube video on this channel. If you like what you heard with the comparisons of Bioshock with the book Bioshock Rapture, please like and subscribe. I am more than happy to do additional videos on this and get into some of the other characters that I just didn't have time to on this video. So thanks again for listening, and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.